So the first thing to note off when it comes to talking about Data Squad and its plot, and pretty much anything about it, is that to me it had an incredibly rough start. Like, it almost completely turned me off to the show before I had gotten through the first episode. Which, just the way they try to introduce us to the characters in this episode is so stupid. It's really funny to me. So, our story begins with introducing one of our main characters, Yoshi, who is an agent of some sort of anti-Digimon government police force, who is arriving at the scene of some sort of attack where she finds an Agumon and a bunch of knocked out people. And she also finds our lovely main character for this season, Marcus. Now, Marcus is a very special character. I have yet to see any singular person more hated by the Digimon fanbase than Marcus. I've seen more hatred directed towards him than Davis, than Kenta and Kazu, than pretty much any other character that wasn't just a very hateable villain. The only group of people that I found that consistently liked Marcus were slash-fic writers. Now, some of you may not be familiar with Marcus and the reasons why people don't like him. Well, let's take a little listen into how he's first introduced to us, the audience.
I don't know who you are, but you're standing in the middle of my turf. This is my training ground. One day I'm gonna be a champion ultimate fighter. Fans all over will chant my name. They'll say Marcus Damon is the best.
Yes, he did just show absolutely no interest in the fact there was a walking, talking dinosaur in front of him. And yes, he did just challenge it to a fight by very oddly explaining his backstory and motivations to it. So Yoshi here tries to intervene, but when she's told not to do it by Marcus here, she just says, okay, fine, and watches them fight for literally hours. Yeah, because there's no immediate danger to having a human fight a Digimon. I mean, how much damage could an Agumon do?
You do that right again.
So when they're done fighting, Agumon and Marcus form some sort of kinship, and Agumon wants to become Marcus's partner. But now that all the fighting is done, Yoshi decides to get involved and reveal her own Digimon. This thing is named Lalamon. And when Marcus and Agumon try to get away, Lalamon tries to shoot Marcus with bullet seeds, causing Agumon to then try to murder Yoshi with a fireball, which then allows Marcus to get away with Agumon, and they bond for a brief period before Marcus gets separated from Agumon to go buy some food and runs into Yoshi, who talks to him for a brief bit before taking him to DATS, which is the organization's name that Yoshi works for, and introduces him to what is essentially the concept or gimmick for this season. The sort of Digimon police, who are meant to create a safe environment for humans and prevent Digimon invasion. So they try to convince Marcus to turn over Agumon, and then they get this alert that there's an attack downtown, and they assume it's Agumon, and Marcus rushes to go see if it's him. Turns out it's not. It's this giant evil chicken Digimon. He and Agumon engage in a fight, and we're about to introduce another gimmick that the show has, and this is where a lot of fans officially checked out, because when Marcus sees Agumon is in trouble, he decides the best course of action is to punch the chicken Digimon in the face, and by doing so, this gives him the ability to digivolve Agumon into Greymon. Yep, this is the season where a guy literally punching a Digimon in the face is a mechanic for digivolving. I laughed so hard when I realized this. I should also mention that during the fight, this old man appears who throws Marcus a Digivice. He's important, and it's just to explain how Marcus has a Digivice. So this conflict is then followed up with another conflict where Dat still wants to deport Agumon back to the digital world. Marcus breaks Agumon out of Dat's, and they both decide to go on the lam. and by on the lam, I mean go chill out at Marcus's mom's house for a while. Now, Marcus's family, which consists of his mom and his little sister. His mom's name, I don't know. I'm just going to call her Marcus's mom. And his sister's name is Chrissy.
Hey, Thomas, do you have a funny friend like Agumon that hangs around with you?
Yes, hello Melissa Fawn. It's very nice to hear you again. Hopefully this will end better than the last time I reviewed something you were a part of. Now I will say I'm going to skip a bit ahead because honestly a lot of this episode might classify as like character moments and relationship development, and I'm saving that for another part. So I'm just going to skip ahead to the end of this episode, which after Marcus and Yoshi fight off an evil Digimon, the head of DATS, Commander Samson, decides to make Marcus an official agent. The episode that follows this introduces the character Thomas, who is the last member of our 3-person team right now. He's like the super best agent ever. He's super strong and super handsome. All the girls love him. He's got a cool Digimon named Galmon and his partner. And he's like all logical and stuff, and Marcus doesn't like him. So naturally this causes tension between these two alpha males. This is our kind of dynamic for a while, and I think now would be a good time to do a bit of compare and contrast before the season starts picking up again. Now, a lot of fans, and including some people in the comments I saw, like to compare Data Squad, or more specifically this section of Data Squad, to Tamers. And this comparison makes sense in some ways. There are some base similarities. Both start off in the real world and mainly take place in the real world. Both have a relatively small group of main kids. Both have government organizations designed to control Digimon. Both have Digimon invading the human world, which serves as our main antagonist for a while. And both manage to use characters' families to aid their development. But still, there are definitely a lot of differences between the two seasons, and I will flat out say that I do prefer Tamers over Data Squad in this first section. So these aren't exactly perfect comparisons, but I will start off talking about one of the biggest differences I found is mostly in exactly what type of mood and tone each is trying to establish. Tamers is definitely trying to establish a much darker tone that is much more mysterious. Digimon are first introduced to our heroes without any real explanation as to why exactly they're there, or where they came from, or even how they really got there. This provides questions for characters like Takato, and also the invading Digimon, who follow sort of villain of the week format, give chances for our characters to kind of hypothesize exactly who, what, and why there are Digimon. All while you have this government agency just kind of ominously floating about, sort of implying that they have a lot of answers that they're just not sharing with the audience yet. Data Squad handles it almost completely differently. Data Squad is very upfront with all the information that it's willing to provide to the audience at this point. There is no real sort of mystery as to what Digimon are. They pretty much blatantly state it within the first episode. Digimon are creatures living in this world. They come here through portals. Our job is to stop them and send them back through these portals to the digital world, which, by the way, we ourselves can go to the digital world. Therefore, while Tamers kind of worked up the digital world a bit, Data Squad just pretty much blows its load very early on in showing the digital world. This to me seems primarily done to help establish a much lighter mood, as Data Squad tries to be a bit more humorous in its first section than I think other seasons have. And that in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't want to give the impression that Data Squad has absolutely no mystery to it in the beginning. We just still don't know who this guy is right off the bat. And he does sporadically appear quite a bit in these first couple episodes. But still, it seems like the primary focus of this first couple episodes is cultivating the relationships that Marcus has with both his family and other team members, mostly Thomas. Yoshi doesn't get a whole lot of room to breathe, I'll put it that way. But the problem is also that the tone that the season takes in these first couple episodes, I think, hampers a lot of this building. Like I said, it takes a humorous tone, and you see, okay, sorry to explain like a whole lot of stuff, but there's two extremes I feel when it comes to the handling of both Data Squad and Tamers. You see, the extreme of the way Tamers handled its season, very dark, much more serious, is complete and utter melodrama, or something overly dark that completely just makes you depressed and not want to continue watching. That's the extreme of that Tamers could have had, but successfully, I feel, avoided for the most part. The extreme that Data Squad could have had is, with its humorous setting, is just complete and utter silliness, like just annoying silliness. Like that silliness that just gives you this cold, dead stare at the screen as you just wonder why they thought this was a good idea. Data Squad is constantly fluctuating around that extreme. Like, it passes it a couple times. Like the guy who uses the Bat Digimon to help him gamble at horse track races. Oh no, or how about Yoshi's ex-boyfriend who uses the Digimon to, like, make him a famous musician? Or my personal favorite, the Digimon that overhears Chrissy say that she hopes Marcus gets hit by a boat. So the Digimon finds this, like, ship tanker and locks out the entire crew so he can hijack the boat and drive it into the city to try to run Marcus over in it. Yeah, that was a great episode. But I think some of this over silliness stems from the fact that the season tries to base the villains, I guess you could say, or the weekly antagonist Digimon around their interaction with humans. Now, I have quite a bit to say on this, dynamic, but I think I'm going to save it for when we talk about a certain other season who tries this idea. But I will kind of end with saying that it's sort of a cop-out that they have the Men in Black Mind Eraser beams, so that way they can keep all the Digimon a secret, but still have giant epic fights out in the middle of the public. But whatever, we get through like 10 episodes of that, and then we finally start getting a bit more of a story going on, when a Digi-Egg appears out of the sky and lands in an unknown location. So our heroes have to go and find it before it hatches. And it turns out it landed in Marcus's house. And it soon hatches into a Puamon which befriends Chrissy. Shortly after, though, we start getting introduced to our sort of real villains for this first arc, with Falcomon being the first one to arrive, as he attempts to steal the egg from the humans. And after he fails to do so, we start seeing more villains. First is Gatsumon, who's not like a super important villain, like he's not going to get his own section, but he's still worth mentioning. And our big bad for this first arc, Marukimon, who is like a big leader of all different types of Digimon and is engaged in very anti-human rhetoric, saying that humans and Digimon shouldn't mix and all sorts of things. But Marukimon himself honestly starts to fall into the background a bit even after his reveal, because the show then begins to focus on Keenan. Now, Keenan is Falcomon's human partner, although Keenan did not believe he is a human. He believes he is a Digimon, and in fact he hates all of humanity. And you can see where this is going. It's almost now become a Digimon cliche to have the big villain who is evil but then turns good and joins the group. Like, seriously, this happens now in every single season ever since 02, and around here I was getting very annoyed with it. Like, Ken was cool, most of the villains in Tamers that turned good were cool, even though I kind of think they overdid it a bit with almost every single villain becoming a good guy. Frontier didn't handle it the best, and then by this point it's just kind of hack. But yeah, Keenan here just dominates the next couple episodes. They go to the digital world looking for him. They take him to his parents. They bring him back to the human. They do all sorts of stuff with Keenan. I'm going to skip it because it's all part of his character section that I'm going to talk about later. So we're just going to skip a little bit ahead and just mention some tiny little points, such as the introduction of Saber Leomon, who's like a super far right anti-human radical, even compared to Marukimon. And this guy turns out to be the chief of DATS, or former chief of DATS or something, and he's just been wandering around for a while. We also learned a bit about Marcus's dad, who is a big sort of theme, I guess you can call him, because it's mentioned early on that Marcus's dad disappeared. We learned that he went on an exploration to the digital world to explore it and then never came back. The arc begins coming to a close when Gatsumon kind of goes rogue and just flat out invades the digital world. Now, this to me is where I actually really start to like this season. I didn't like the first part of it, as I've explained. The stuff with Keenan, I'm going to get more into it later, but that was better, but I still honestly wasn't that thrilled with it, mostly because I just don't like Keenan as a villain or even that much as a character. But this invasion, first off, it's just a cool scene with, good fights. Also, like I've said in the past, I like the idea of the Digimon invading the human world, but this one is just much more of a military invasion. And it honestly starts to shift the tone quite a bit. Like, it was lighthearted before. With Keenan, it was a bit more serious, but there was still, like, some lighthearted things going on. This just starts to paint Data Squad in much more of a darker, more serious light. It also makes Keenan realize he's human, which ends that whole dumb story arc. And also, we get our first look at this guy.
Well, it looks like the Digimon Data Squad is locked in a bitter battle. Such a pity. I really should end it. After all, I started it.
What? A digital gate? What?
Yes, this is Kurata. We know how not evil he is because the show told us he's not evil, even though we just saw him in his introduction doing something that seemed evil. We all know him. We all seem to hate him. And he just says, I'm Mr. Science Man. I'm gonna help promote peace between the human and digital world because that's really what I want to do, guys. Then Saber Leomon invades, and I point this out for two reasons. First off, it's to point out how bullcrap Marcus's punching ability is. Because, look at this, Saber Leomon is a Mega level Digimon. He's getting pounded by all these Ultimate level Digimon and just taking like no damage. Then Marcus punches him in the face and shatters his tooth. That is crap. It also introduces this mysterious looking Digimon. I wonder who controls that. On a completely different note, in the wake of all this mystery, Kurata just suggests that we go to the digital world to meet Marukimon in person to arrange some sort of peace agreement. Well, this doesn't really go well because we have our big fight with Gatsumon, who just dies. He's gone, for now, and our heroes finally have their showdown with Marukimon. And this goes well, I guess. Until Marukimon makes the shocking revelation that someone in the group is evil. Is it Marcus? Is it Thomas or Yoshi? Or could it be Keenan? Was he a double agent the whole time? Well, I guess we'll never know who it was until next time when we try to finish the plot of Digimon Data Squad. Alright, I'm tired. Good night.
Era all'inferno. Chi dirà povero Cristo?